Hi, my name is Brad Levy, and this is the Thing About FinTech. We overestimate technology in the short, and then it busts a bit, and then we underestimate the impact in the long.
Each one of these points brings in a new threat vector. And there's this cluster of things that are moving at an incredible rate.
Financial crime is really a big challenge globally.
How do you balance exploring the possibilities with these technologies while also maintaining that tight security?
When all of these things start to collide, it just changes everything.
Welcome to the Thing About FinTech with me, Anvar
and me, Toby Bab. Today, it's a very exciting one. We're here early in the office, and we've got Brad Levy from ThetaRay. How you doing?
I am really awesome.
Good to have you.
You certainly are. Every time I see you, awesome's a word that comes right into it.
Why not?
We're super excited about this one. We've been looking for it for a while. You know the theme of the thing. We've spoken to some of the leading names in this industry, and it wouldn't have been right not to have you on it. So thank you so much for finding the time to come and join us today.
As always, Toby.
Absolutely. Look, so we've got loads to get into. You're a great thinker in this industry, and I love some of the diamonds, triangles, patterns, shapes, numbers that you live by. We're going to go into all of that, but let's start off with an introduction. Brad, tell us a little bit about your history. I know that could be a whole episode in itself.
I won't do that.
A little bit about the history, and then introduce ThetaRay as well.
Yeah, so I'm in my fourth decade, 35 years in. I spent 20 years on Wall Street as a banker for 10 years, as a e-commerce strategic investments market structure for 10 years, largely at Goldman Sachs. Helped build a lot of consortiums and clearing, trading, settlement, data. Then in 2011-12, I joined Market, a company I'd been involved in for the previous 12 years, and I ran the interest rate swap and derivative processing businesses and loans there largely. I was there about 8 years, and then moved to Symphony, collaboration technology company, also pretty well known in the industry, and I was there for 5 years. A lot of fun, very interesting at a time where communication and encryption and the compliance issues around offline communications really kind of exploded. And then 8 weeks ago, I joined ThetaRay in the anti-money laundering financial crime compliance space. I had an 8-hour garden leave. It was about 4 hours too long.
Best break you've had, I was going to say.
So at 9 a.m. I signed off.
It's dog years, right?
By 5 p.m. I was on.
Yeah.
And then I had the weekend, which was nice. And then I showed up at an offsite with my team in Rome.
Yes.
And since then, I've been to Rome, Madrid, Paris, Israel, London. And yeah, it's been a
various states of the USA as well. Don't forget those.
That's all. Yes, in America. But no, it's been a thrilling moment to join. You know, financial crime is really a big challenge globally. It's one of the unfortunately growing trends. Fraud. We haven't even seen the AI kind of agent swarm drones of just really pushing from the bad side. So it feels really interesting to me to be involved in defending against financial crime, money laundering, human trafficking. Arms dealing, drug trafficking. So it's, I'm above that, but it's just an interesting moment for me for sure.
I think that interest is really, specific because we've spoken before about where you see, the future of the industry, the future of technology, where things move through. You mentioned AI there. I know you've got a big thesis about quantum. We've got, this digital assets, everything else in between. There's this cluster of things that are moving at an incredible rate, and you've really thought about where that can come through. So I want to pass over to Anvar, who I know wants to dive into that as a starting point of it, the tech piece.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the famous Brad Diamond, where do we start there? You're in the AI space. Cybersecurity has always been a big thing. Given the seriousness of the businesses that ThetaRay is kind of guarding, how do you think about these things, and how do you think they're changing?
Well, I think about them in shapes. So in a diamond is two triangles, right? So if you take AI at the peak and cyber at the base, and to the left you have the digital crypto world, and to the right you have quantum, right? So crypto is here, AI is a force, and we're moving into quantum to the right. And then at the base of all of that is the cyber. People confuse and conflate these things to some degree. But those are all connected, they're all converging, and we all need to collaborate around them and figure out how they're intersecting, because there's nothing in a vacuum any longer. And if you take that concept all the way down through supply chains, it's all very connected, and we tend not to realize it until things are either moving fast for good, or really when things hit those the physical world and the technology world, and then obviously the financial impacts of those.
Yeah. And how do you sort of see the convergence? Because obviously each one of these points brings in a new threat vector from the cyber security point of view. So how do you balance sort of exploring the possibilities with these technologies while also maintaining that tight security?
Threat vector. I like that. Thank you.
Yeah, there you go. I can see that
The arrays were moving. I would say, by philosophy, I'm an incrementalist. I don't believe you can do anything big bang. I also don't believe that new technology comes and wipes out the past. It's more, if you think about the city of London, there's a layering here. Everything is layering. And over time, you may be able to move up and then take away kind of what's going on below, kind of like a brick breaker. Where you get it, when you figure out those, when it's really clean across, then you could start to take, layers out. The new folks always think, just do it this way, right? Blockchain, AI. There's 5,000 mainframes in the industry. There's hundreds of millions of lines of COBOL, or billions probably.
Yeah.
COBOL.
That doesn't get unpaid.
Those are the, it's sort of, the graybeards. If you really want to work on COBOL, you need to find people that are 55 to 85 years old. So that still exists. Fax machines still exist. So these, we're always, we overestimate technology in the short, and then it busts a bit, and then we underestimate the impact in the long. And it's these convergences. I wrote a piece years ago around Moore's Law, Metcalfe's Law, Wright's Law. It's the compute increasing, it's the network acceleration, and then the productivity gains when all of these things start to collide. And then I think it's Arama's Law. That's this, the short-long problem. Everybody gets head faked, gets over-enthusiastic, and then the 5 years after that, the 10, the 20, it's probably shorter. It just changes everything, and most people are just caught a little bit, off guard.
Yeah. So is it fair to say that you're kind of long positive towards AI then?
Well, I hope so. I just jumped in, and to be honest, in the last couple of years, I'm thinking, what are the big trends that I just need to be involved in? So back in the early 90s, I got involved in working with something called a computer. A PC computer.
I think that worked out.
Because there were microfiches and magnetic tapes and CDs hadn't come. So I was in that early and Lotus Excel. Then I was an internet guy in the late 90s. And I think, then the cloud came in 07 with the mobility movement, same year the iPhone launched. So computing, the internet, the iPhone, that was a 25-year arc. And I somehow got involved early enough in each of those where I was able to bring those together to some degree. And then from sort of 10 to 26, you've had blockchains, distributed ledger technologies. So, but all of these things are I think contain, converge, and collaborate. Like that's how you have to think about containing it at least. Then you have to think about how these things relate. And then most importantly, and this is really my theme in life now, it's you have to collaborate with people. Right, you can run fast alone, farther together. Like we need a lot of partners to do what we do at ThetaRay. We needed that at Symphony. Nobody's in a vacuum anymore. And we all need to work with each other on some level.
Talk to me about that, because I think that collaboration is really important, and I think it's been a change in the industry. I've said a few times that, particularly in the days of enterprise technology, this industry, the financial services space, have been very, very good at hiding its homework. It didn't want anyone looking over its shoulder. It was, this is us, this is our alpha, our advantage is being the best at technology. We're now in this space with so many different converging areas that it feels like, collaboration and actually sharing of information has become far more commonplace than it was even 10, 15 years ago.
So in 2015, I wrote a piece called It's the Community Stupid. And it was about open source, collaboration, and blockchains. And these things are interesting. And, I would say historically, big firms built a lot, small firms bought a lot. The buy versus build. Everybody that was building everything is thinking about buying more, and everybody that was buying everything is thinking about building more. And people can actually build now. Like both my son and my daughter in the last week have figured out they can build things now. My son built an app on Claude for his contacts and how he manages his relationships. My daughter built a business plan who's not technical, and that happened in the last 7 days. I've been telling them for 10 or 15 years, you can do these things. Now they
And I bet they read it in a magazine rather than listen to you and told you about it.
Well, I've said it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
I think 3 of them got through.
Yeah.
And then the world just kind of figured it out almost at the same time with this GPT moment.
Yeah, yeah.
And my daughter actually thanked my son because she said, you inspired me last week when he built an app in 5 hours. And then she built a business plan in 4 hours.
Yeah.
And that all happened. And that was amazing for me to see my 22-year-old and 25-year-old children being able to take this on. So the young people are not going to be blown out by this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're going to be powered up.
Yeah, that is
It's kind of the middle of that the org structures that are too big in the middle. Senior people are going to be able to go down, junior people are going to power up, and I would be concerned if I were in the middle, not adding a lot of value.
Yeah, and just coming back to that, and you talked there about seeing that sort of inspiration to your kids, and being able to sort of guide them and advise them and that sort of thing. I think it's relevant to a lot of people, but also it's about them starting their journeys there of business plans, of building apps and all that sort of thing. If you can look at that and give them some advice and some wisdom from the journey that you've been on, that from seeing one of the most successful fintech journeys of all time with Lance and everything there, I think that's fair to say, from the work you did from Symphony now to ThetaRay. It's been a really interesting view. Plus, obviously, everything before that with some of the biggest institutions in the world that you've been involved in. What's some of the pearls that you would pass down there?
Fail fast,
about building businesses. Yeah.
Fail together, and that's actually how you get wisdom. Michael Jordan, he remembers almost all of his misses. He remembers very few of his unbelievable moments of making it. When you really try to be exceptional or drive or build, you have to have these failures because there's no way, if it hasn't been done, there's no way not to fail. Like I'd say Elon Musk and SpaceX is the ultimate version I've seen in my life of a rocket blowing up, a rocket blowing up, a rocket blowing up. Then they got off, they got off.
Yeah.
Then they landed. Then he caught it with a chopstick.
Yeah.
And the moment, I don't know if you remember the moment where that thing got caught with a chopstick.
Yeah.
That blew my mind.
Yeah.
And I saw that happen over 20 years.
Yeah.
And that was a generational time, but it happened. So, I've talked to my children about that. I've lived through a lot of challenges with people like Lance and Billy Holt and people I've worked with over many years. I think we've all learned a lot more and have gotten a lot tighter together and build trust by those failures.
Yeah. I think that's a really important thing to look at, and it's not to be feared, it's but to be embraced, isn't it, around that sort of thing?
Fear is a weird word. I don't sell FOMO, I sell Joji, the joy of joining in. You could buy happiness, by the way, you got to earn joy.
Yeah.
Right? You can shine yourself up and be happy. Joy comes inside out, right?
Yeah.
From the things that you try to really, your diet gets better, your skin looks better.
Yeah.
So I just think if you really take that on and don't even use those words, those negative manifestations. Yeah. Yes, I'm having a midlife crisis. I use the word manifest. But it's true. Clint Eastwood, I read a quote from him the other day. It's, if you fail, you have to forge ahead. Yeah. If you think it's going to rain, it's going to rain.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's so much to say about that, and it's a constant sort of battle, with yourself at various stages, isn't it? Particularly in times of volatility.
No, not for me. I'm awesome. But that's why
we started the journey, right?
It puts me in the mode of thinking that.
Yeah.
It really trains my brain to hear it. It comes back, and I just feel more excited and interested.
So you're a big
I'm never nervous.
guy.
I'm always excited.
Yeah.
Why not?
I think also, going back to what you said about your children, I think what technology has done now more than anything is given people a path to, you can just do that, whatever that is.
It's leveled the playing field.
Yeah, it has. And it's sort of allowed people to think, well, I can just do that. I can just build something for myself.
When I entered the industry in '92, I was pretty good at Lotus. 5-8 years before that, you needed somebody in technology to build you something. So the power got put in the analyst's hands in the early 90s and then really went up and to the right when Excel came out. So that was a moment I remember. And I became a quant, which meant I could build a print macro, I could clear paper jams, and I understood what serial and parallel port were because that's where my programs ran.
Yeah.
So those were very simple, basic things at that time, but there were half of the bankers in my business didn't even have a computer on their desk. And the assistants were on mainframes on Wang with IBM typewriters typing letters on letterhead.
Yeah.
That was 1992.
Yeah.
That's not 1892. Like we can't, like my kids can't imagine life before cell phones, internet, and computers.
Yeah.
I'm like, we made slingshots. We ran around.
I mean, it ages you when you talk about these sort of things very quickly.
No way, I'm 16 years old, by the way. Just to be clear.
Mentally, I'm exactly the same.
Exactly. No, you're a baby. We're all babies. That's why we like each other.
But it's just lovely, isn't it, when you think about that sort of thing? And I often think back in my business, there was a room, longer than this that was just full of fax machines. That's how CVs went out. That's how we used to send those CVs
The
to
one that
people.
rolled under the table because it fell off.
Exactly.
It was like, where'd it go? Oh, it's under the fax machine.
Yeah, we had an alarm that went off at the end of the day, and everyone would go and stuff envelopes full of CVs to actually post them out as well. It's crazy how things have progressed with all of this. And the other thing that you talk about, obviously, is the significance of people and process and everything in between. Expand on that a little bit for us as well.
So people, process, product.
Yeah.
I was out with a client last night with a woman my vintage and a woman much less. And we talked about the filofax. If you remember the filofax.
Yeah.
In the 80s. And there were full
It's still in my bedside drawer. Still in my bedside drawer.
Right,
I don't know why, but it's still there.
But then I also then had a Palm Pilot for my calendar and my contacts. I also had a BlackBerry early. The traders used to call me Batman because I had Palm Pilot on one side, a BlackBerry on the other, and then my card came. No, that was more post 9/11 when I started putting the masks in my office, literally. But I've just seen those things, and I still love notebooks.
Yeah.
I learn much better, and I'm much more creative when I'm writing. Ultimately, though, I do need to create a lot more, so I need the digital.
Yeah.
It's not analog versus digital, it's analog and digital.
Yeah.
And if we want humanity to exist in any way that we think about today, we really have to think about it as a two-sided coin rather than a replacement.
Yeah. And when we talk about this journey that you've been on, we're also in extraordinary times again. It feels like at the moment, volatility is ever around us. Talk to us about leading through that volatility. You've had it in various different stages of your career.
I have.
You go back to, you mentioned 08 there, obviously COVID, and now what's happening with a business ThetaRay that is, 50% physically in Israel. That's where 100 people of your staff are. I mean, there's no playbook for that, right?
Well, there's no playbook, but you need a playbook, right? So unfortunately, we do have a playbook for that. And, I was in Israel on Friday before the Saturday a few weeks ago. I was at a colleague's kibbutz. I did an ice bath that evening at 10 p.m. and then I got on a flight at 1 a.m. And by Saturday, things changed. So I think, if, Clubber, any prediction for the fight? Pain, right? I've been through, the 94 blow up, for the 87 blow up personally, the 94 blow up, the 2001-2 blow up, the 08 blow up. So I've been part of many financial kind of calamities. I was at Feb 26, 93, I was sitting next to Tower 1 at Lehman Brothers. 9/11, I was downtown. So all of those moments of volatility have really taught me a lot about how quickly things can change, no matter how smart you are, no matter what your model says. We always seem to land in the 7th standard deviation. I'm like, well, then the model was wrong because we just didn't know enough, because 7's a lot.
Yeah.
So as a rule of 3, I don't like to move beyond the 3rd standard deviation. So I just think, I have an innovation formula that's 50% trust, 30% passion. And you build trust through good and bad times by having good and bad experiences.
Yeah.
You build a lot of trust in bad times. You can build some trust in good times and bad times, but the moment you really don't help someone in the bad time, in the foxhole, all of that history is wiped out. So you take that trust, you layer on passion, like I really care about what I'm doing, and then tech and creativity and those are all like little ingredients, but the steak and the rub is really that trust and passion. So it's hard to trust if you don't know people and have actual experiences with them.
Yeah.
So I just factor all of those things. I try to formularize them, put them in context over time, take my own experiences, not impose them on anyone, but I do talk about it because I think about it, and these patterns are tricky.
So this is interesting to me because you are very clearly a people person, and there's a lot of passion and energy behind everything you do. That's clear for all to see. And the people piece is I think always interesting in that sort of, 1 to 100 company. You kind of know everyone, you know their families, you know their stories, etc.
A Roman century.
Yeah.
100 people are very knowable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And beyond that, it gets a little bit more. But I think about some of the companies you worked in before that. I think about how you're doing that now with, as you said, 8 weeks into a business, it feels like you've been there forever already from everything that I've seen.
I met 180 people of 200.
Yeah, which is incredible to me. So that's obviously something that's really, really important to you, and I would also say fairly rare. What drives that for you?
I mean, when I was growing up, I had a lot of different friend groups, all different spectrums. Goldman was a hyper collaborative, a Borg, a beehive, whatever. We were just all together somehow. We believed that if we worked together, we were going to win more. Market was that hardcore. Lance built a very hyper collaborative firm. Symphony was a collaboration technology company, right? And we built a very connected collaborative firm. So I've just seen in my experience, so it's not me. A lot of it came from my elders. I saw it, I witnessed it, and I just realized that I really am almost nothing alone.
Yeah.
I'm something, because it's offensive to say I'm nothing. But I really can't do anything without a lot of people.
Yeah.
I believe in servant leadership, which is not that apparent, just based on style sometimes, but I really do work for the people that work for me. Because without them, I truly can't. I can't get anything done, physically. It's a problem. It's a resource game.
Yeah.
And what does good, we've spoken about this at length over the years, and I think I 100% agree. My whole career is obviously based around people, and that's been the last 26 years of my job.
You're pretty likable.
But it's about finding the formula for what great looks like in a person. And I think there's so many different things that make that up. But there's some a golden thread that comes through it, and I'm imagining that's something you put some thought process into.
You think?
If you're around, I'm guessing. It's a hunch. It's a hunch. But tell me what good looks like in an individual for you.
Yeah. So I do a lot of people, process, product. P cubed or S cubed or C cubed. This is not a cubing, right? So this is curiosity, hard work, and teamwork. Whenever anybody asks me anything about how do a 20-year-old, how do you win in life? You have to be curious. You have to go where people haven't gone. You have to look at things that you don't understand. If you're not uncomfortable, you're not growing.
Yeah.
I remember growing pains in my legs when I was a kid.
Yeah.
That was a good thing. I was a little boy. I liked my growing pains, right? So that's the start, the state of curiosity.
Yeah.
But you have to work hard.
Yeah.
I'm not a 10,000 hours person. I don't believe you should do something all the time to become the best golfer.
Yeah.
I actually think you need to develop huge range early in your life, which is a problem in the world. And then, again, teamwork. You can run fast alone, farther together, and that's that. And every single experience in my life, from growing up as a kid, to getting to Lehman Brothers, to getting to Goldman, to getting to market, to going to Symphony, and now in this mode, I've never been more in belief that really understanding and working with people, given my current situation where half of my team is really in a very challenging situation.
I mean, it is phenomenal, your team, and I'm watching it from the outside. And I'm seeing the communication.
On
on your Instagram, on the ThetaRay Instagram. Yeah. I mean, the team's Instagram. I mean, it's all picked up on there, but then it's also picked up on just the communication that comes out. The marketing, I think, in comms is fantastic from what you guys are doing. But it gives it a real human.
By the way, there's 3 of us doing that, and I'm one of them.
Yeah, but it's a very human nature of it all, isn't it? You kind of really get to know the DNA of the organisation. And coming back to what we've spoken about. Yeah, we're always trying to unpack it, and it's and always trying to unpack what great looks like. And if you think about the conversations we've had around that hard work, that curiosity. I was with a guy last night who's a very good friend of mine, a sports psychologist, and he's writing this is a crazy coincidence as we were talking about last time.
Or no coincidence, just collision. Hashtag NFT.
So here's another collision. Last night I was sat there with a person who's in the final stages of writing a book around curiosity and its power. Which I'll give you as soon as it's out, and I'll get it signed or the copy. But it's that great sort of thing, and that's one of the core theme of your career as well.
Yeah, but I think the really interesting part is that the narrative around AI is all about kind of getting rid of people, but AI doesn't solve the hard problems, which is what you're referring to, is the creativity, the passion, the trust that you need to build up. AI doesn't fix any of that. AI is just a tool, an ingredient, to your point. And I think that often gets lost.
Well, these are fear mongers. What humans would run around saying, I'm delivering something that's going to wipe out 90% of the jobs in the world? By the way, that's never happened. We don't wipe them out. We transform them.
Yeah.
If I could do 1, 2, 3 things today in 5 or 10 years, that may be done by something automated, but I will then be doing 10, 20, 30 things above that based on the power.
Yeah.
It's going to power us up and to the right. Thank You for Being Late, the book by Thomas Friedman in 17. If you believe in these convergences and you just try to understand them a little, you can sit on top of that wave. I believe you can actually create the wave.
Yeah.
And I don't need the large technology companies in the world and the fear mongers to tell me that I have to listen to them because we're going to wipe out jobs.
Yeah.
We're going to recreate humanity in a different way. It will take a lot of volatility moments that are going to be really challenging for people to manage through because we don't like uncertainty. Equity markets are a forward pricing instrument. Like software is being hit, not because it's going away, but it's hard to price it.
Yeah.
Because the commercial model has to change.
Yeah.
Consumption and value based versus technology cost plus seat licenses for 5, 10 years at a clip. It's gonna be on demand. And that's just a big shift. So how do you price an instrument when you don't know the commercial model? But we'll figure that out.
I mean, and this is an interesting piece as well, because I put a poll out last week, and I'll put this to both of you, because there's obviously this noise around the SaaS market and what happens to it. And I put a poll out with 4 different questions. So is AI the death of SaaS? So option A is it turbocharges SaaS, if you put it in the right way. Number 2 is it obliterates it. Number 3 is the two go in coexistence, and number 4 is AI is a bubble. Don't worry about it. Surprisingly, I think there was about 2% that said AI was a bubble. 70 odd percent of it, 76 maybe, sat in the world of to both extremes. I think the most was they coexist. But the turbocharge piece really interested me, which was also up there. So you put those two together where it's a positive force. That's where I think we've got to look at it, right?
Absolutely.
Is that what you both?
Yeah, completely.
Have you ever seen horses in person? Do they exist?
I think I've seen
That's
one or two.
a leading question.
I think I've seen one or two.
Did the car kill all the horses?
Yeah.
No, the horses just are a different purpose.
Yeah.
Like actually, and in certain
I
places
still
in
think
the world,
faster horses was a good idea.
I agree. But the manure problem was a real challenge. Actually, there was a manure crisis building in London
Is that right?
in the 1800s. And they were going to be 8 feet deep, so they kind of had to get out of it.
Yeah.
I was just in Iceland where they eat horses.
That looked a great trip as well, coming
Amazing.
back to the gram. Yeah.
I learned that was a life changer trip. But like, I can't eat a horse.
Yeah.
Not my thing.
Yeah.
They're too human-y. But you know what? That happens in places in the world. I certainly can't eat a dog.
Yeah.
We've been talking to dogs for 15,000 years, cats for 12, and horses for 10,000 years.
Yeah.
That's when we domesticated these things.
Yeah.
Do we really think we know anything about time and how things come and go?
Yeah.
So if I think of ThetaRay, we have these great algorithms. That's our heart. We've now launched this rate agent. That's the brain. The software is the muscle and bone, and the data is the nervous system and the blood. If you think of a body, are we just going to be a brain roaming around with all robotic stuff? Yes, my knee will be replaced. All of these things will happen, but I don't think we're going to lose our humanity because we're just not that dumb. We're just going to go through calamity to get there, unfortunately, because that's the cycle of change.
And what does that look like? I mean, I know that's a crystal ball sort of moment, but if you're sat there, and I think one of those, coming back to the whole decision about ThetaRay and the diamond and such, like you're looking to again, if we're talking quotes, let's go to the skate to where the puck's going.
Yes, Wayne Gretzky.
Well, yeah, exactly. So and that's where I think your career's been built on, right? You've spoken about it, looking at visionary moments and saying, right, where's everything going? How can I put myself in that situation? And that's informed the choice that you've made and the company that you've attached yourself to, and where you've got this clear excitement about what the potential is of this business. And you talk about navigating uncertainty within that. What do you think we should be buckling up for?
You have to think of time in these 20-year generational clips, because that's when generations come and go, that's when bigger changes can happen, because it's the time for the technology to evolve, but also the people that can be retrained more easily shift, right? So 60 years with 20 years per child, those are 3 generations. That's when you see big change. But it's also the connections of the things that develop over those times, right? From mainframes to PCs to the internet to the mobile phone to the cloud. So that is fact. Every time the uncertainty hits, we decide that's not going to happen again. It might rhyme. It repeats, just with different words. Like, people use the word meditating a lot now. For me, that was sitting on the bus staring out the window for 45 minutes on the way to school. I meditated a lot when I was 10 years old. We just didn't call it that.
Didn't know what you were saying.
That boredom.
Yeah.
I think we've rebranded anxiety. It's pressure.
Yeah.
And pressure's good.
Yeah.
Like, we need it to survive and win. Like, you can't survive without a pressurized room in an airplane.
Yeah.
We rebrand these words and then we make them negative, and I get it, but I kind of don't, because the core is not that complicated.
Yeah. Well, especially now you're manifesting.
That's the point. No, I really believe that. So there's an anxiety bubble in the world, for sure.
Yeah.
And I love my children, but that generation is super anxious.
Yeah.
Part of it is the phone, part of it is the data that's coming at them when they're just too young.
Program, yeah.
And part of it's just the velocity of change for any one human, right?
Yeah.
So it's picking up so quickly. We're still just one human. And 500 years of 1500 to 2000 is now going to be compressed from 2000 to 2050. That amount of change will happen in a tenth of the time, but the type of change is going to be to the power of 3. So it's like 10%, but then power of 3. And you can't even understand that kind of that parabolic shift as a human, as a massively awesome NVIDIA company. You get it.
Yeah.
But for the one person building a chip for NVIDIA in India, they probably don't think about it quite that way, and they can't, because it's almost too overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew this was going to happen, and we've flown through things. So I'm going to pass it to you to start to round things off, Anvar.
Yeah.
The floor's yours.
We've tackled quite a few items here, but I think what really stands out is your focus on the human qualities with that change, with that rapid kind of volatility and all the uncertainty. At the end of the day, you kind of default to human values, the trust, the passion, knowing someone. And I think that's a really important takeaway message, that if we as humans focus on being human, then you're going to be less anxious about the change.
The tech will reflect it.
Yeah.
If that's our intent, the tech will evolve as a human enabling tech. If we decide it's going to wipe us out, it will actually do that. So the thing I think about the most is timing and sequence. So I don't get the timing that right, but I really try not to be late. Right? You could be early or late, and I wrote this the other day, but being right on time is just not a thing. Everybody's trying to be right on time. So my moves have generally been driven by, I pay attention, I read a lot, sort of. I'm not a big reader, but I do consume a lot of information. I consume a tremendous amount of news. People say I shut off the news. I'm saying, you're crazy. But like, that's how you get to that puck. Like, when you have, and so if there's a 20-year movement, I just want to be in like a 3 to 5 year zone. I can't be 10 years early. I can't be 2 years late. So this move for me in AI is, I feel like I jumped into it just about on time. But I also don't think it's the thing as much as the leading thing with all the other things that are coming with it, whether it's crypto, quantum by 40 or 35, and the idea that we're in a space race on every level.
I think that's a really interesting part of what you just said there, because the timing of this AI gold rush is what it feels like at the moment. It's a
lithium rush.
I was you're very
not for schizophrenia. Lithium has multiple purposes. It's more for building, software.
exactly what I meant.
No, but lithium's two things. So anyway, go ahead.
If we're talking about the great lithium rush, as we'll talk about it now. This is. I was speaking to someone in the States the last time I was out, and their view was, you've got 3 years to basically, change your life with this sort of process. I'm not 100% sure I see it in that sort of timescale, but I do believe that there's, and I don't believe it's all in on one particular area of it all. You've talked about these numerous different parts of opportunity at the moment. I think that's an important thing to think about, of where do you go, what do you do, where do you position yourself, and that to me seems to be the focal point of your career.
So I'll do a yes and to the 3 year.
Yeah.
you don't have 3 years to get it all right. You have 3 years to build the state of rightness. Your mindset has to shift. And you can be 15, 55, 105. Everybody has the ability to change their mindset.
Yeah.
Just be more open.
Yeah.
And that's not always required. Like zero interest rate policy for a while allowed nobody to care really about borrowing.
Yeah.
But then you had to change your state of mind earlier, knowing that's probably going to change at some point. So I think we have 3 years to change our state of mind. By 2050, I believe we will be colonizing Mars.
Yeah.
Because I think it's technologically possible. We'll almost have to do it. And that's a big spread, right? 2030 to 2050. But as a person who worked on Y2K projects in 1999, it's not that far away as time compresses as we age out.
Yeah.
We all have good hair, by the way. It's just not. See, we're having a good time.
That's the thing about FinTech, right?
Yeah, laughter helps keep your hair.
Now we know.
That's a thing.
No bald comedians.
No. When comedians go, we got a big problem.
Yeah, very
The
true.
cancel culture 5 or 10 years ago with comedians really alarmed me.
And they seem to
We
be
can't even make fun of ourselves. That's like a really bad sign.
fighting back through social media, though. So
It's come back, and you know, with the jaggedness sawed off. Like it did get refined.
Yeah.
But we're back to being able to make fun of things again.
Yeah.
And why not?
Yeah.
It's just like if you can't make fun of yourself, you know, then you won't allow people to make fun of you, and it's healthy.
it sounds like a great spot to wrap things up. Brad, an absolute pleasure as always. Thanks so much for coming in.
And great to spend time with my new triangle.
Thank you all for watching. We'll see you soon on another episode of The Thing About FinTech. Thanks a lot.